Have you wondered why some people seem to prosper simply being themselves, while you fight following all the rules of conventional success? If you feel that there is something fundamentally wrong with the current system, where hard work no longer guarantees results and authenticity seems a luxury that you cannot afford, you are not crazy. You are perceiving a deep transformation that Carl Jung predicted decades ago. Jung, the psychologist who revolutionized our understanding of the human psyche, understood that an era would come where being authentically would not be only a personal choice, but a real economic advantage. In this video, we are going to explore 5 revolutionary forms of generating income that arise directly from Jung's deepest concepts about individuation and shadow integration. What you will discover will challenge everything they have taught you about success and show you how your inner truth can become your greatest financial asset. Stay with me, because what Jung predicted about our era is happening now. And those who understand him will first have an advantage that no conventional strategy can match. Have you felt that something fundamental has changed in the world, as if a new consciousness were emerging from the depths of humanity? That feeling is not your imagination. You are perceiving what Carl Jung anticipated decades ago. We live in the so-called Aquarius era, a period that marks a radical transformation into the collective psyche, where intuition and authenticity become more valuable than any diploma or social connection. Jung, with his penetrating vision of the human soul, predicted that a time would come when decoding the mysteries of the psyche would be more crucial for the success than any external strategy. This era represents an enantiodromy, the Jungian concept that describes how the extremes are transformed into its opposites. After centuries of valuing materialism and pure rationality, we are witnessing the awakening of the intuitive and spiritual side of humanity. Jung understood that the human psyche works in cycles, and that the time would inevitably come when the collective unconscious would demand a reconnection with our deepest nature. You are not only experiencing personal changes, you are participating in an archetypal transformation that Jung predicted as necessary for the evolution of human consciousness. What makes this moment historical is that Jung not only anticipated this change, but also provided the map to navigate it. He understood that when the collective person, that social mask that humanity has used for so long, began to fragment, would emerge deep hunger for authenticity. This hunger is not a weakness or nostalgia. It is the self, your deepest psychic center, crying out by integration. Jung knew that those who learned to listen to that inner voice, to decode the symbols that the soul sends through dreams, synchronicities, and inexplicable concerns, would be the true pioneers of this new era. Jung's prophecy about our time is clear. Success will no longer come from how much you can adapt to external expectations, but how deeply you can immerse yourself in your own psychic truth. This is the silent revolution that he predicted, an era where being authentically yourself is not only a personal choice, but an evolutionary advantage. You are living exactly at the time Jung anticipated, where individuals becomes not only a spiritual path, but a practical need to prosper in a world that finally values the uniqueness of the human soul. Modern culture has lied to you about success. They have told you that you need to work harder, compete more fiercely, adapt better to what the market demands. But Carl Jung had a radically different perspective that challenges everything they have taught you. For Jung, true success does not come from external effort, but from deep self-knowledge, from the ability to access and express your most authentic nature. His famous phrase, "You are not what happened to you. You are what you choose to convert," is not just beautiful philosophy. It is a revolutionary statement about where the power to create prosperity really resides. Jung understood something that modern psychology is just beginning to recognize, that when you live aligned with yourself, that psychic center that represents your totality, you generate a magnetic energy that attracts opportunities in ways that challenge conventional logic. It is not about positive thinking or superficial manifestation. This is the transcendent function, that psychic process that arises when you consciously integrate the contents of the unconscious. When you stop fighting your essential nature and start collaborating with it, you discover that the universe conspires in your favor in ways that you never imagined. Jung's radical concept is that true prosperity is a natural byproduct of individuation. When you embark on the process of becoming who you really are, integrating your shadow, transcending your person. Listening to the wisdom of your unconscious automatically begins to operate from a place of authentic power. You no longer need to force results or manipulate circumstances because you are flowing with the natural current of your psychic destiny. Jung knew that when a person is truly aligned with himself, his mere presence becomes a creative force that transforms everything he touches. This perspective completely challenges the hustle culture paradigm because it recognizes that the most productive effort is inner work. While others are exhausted trying to fit into molds that do not belong to them, you can be building from your authentic power center. Jung understood that each person has a unique contribution to do to the world, and that when you discover which is yours and you have the courage to express it, success becomes inevitable. It is not that hard work does not matter, but that the most important work is to meet yourself so deeply that your external expression becomes a natural manifestation of your inner truth. Here is the truth that nobody tells you about success. Your greatest source of creative power and prosperity is hidden in what Carl Jung called your shadow. Those parts of yourself that you have repressed, denied, or ashamed. Those impulses, talents, and aspects of your personality that you buried to be accepted are not your enemies. They are your non-exploit goldmine. Jung understood that the shadow is not evil. It is simply everything your conscious ego decided that it was unacceptable. But within that psychic darkness, it lies such a powerful creative energy that it can completely transform your ability to generate abundance. Most people spend their whole life fleeing their shadow without realizing that they are fleeing their genius. Jung knew that when you start dialogue with your shadow instead of suppressing it, you access a creativity that is only yours. That rebel part that you always wanted to express, that controversial perspective that you never dared to share, that irrational passion that you sacrifice for security, that is where your real competitive advantage resides. Your shadow contains all aspects of your personality that could have made you highlight, but that you suppressed to fit. Work with the shadow is not therapy. It is business strategy. When you consciously integrate the rejected aspects of your personality, not only do you become more psychologically complete, but you access a source of innovation that others cannot touch. Jung observed that the most creative and successful people were those who had found ways to constructively channel their gloomy energy. It is not about acting destructively, but of recognizing that this dark energy is actually unrefined, that can be transformed into fuel for your most ambitious projects. Your shadow is your most honest creative partner because it tells you truths that your ego does not want to listen. It shows you where you are being false, where you are wasting your energy, where you could be bold. When you learn to listen to those internal voices that you have always silenced, you discover business ideas that no one else can conceive because they arise from your unique psychic configuration. Jung understood that individuation, the process of integrating all aspects of your personality, is not just personal development, is the development of your economic potential. Your shadow does not want to destroy your life. He wants you to live the life that you really came to live, and that authentic life is naturally prosperous. Carl Jung died in 1961, decades before the internet, social networks, or the digital economy existed. However, their insights about the human psyche are more relevant now than ever. Because Jung did not study technology. He studied the fundamental nature of the human soul, and that nature does not change regardless of what tools we have at our disposal. In a world where everyone can create content, have an online store, or build an audience, the only real difference between those who thrive and those who fight is the level of authenticity and alignment with their true self. Jung predicted that an era would come where differentiation would no longer come from external resources, but from the depth of self-knowledge. In the current digital world, where the entrance barrier for almost any business is minimal, your real competitive advantage is your ability to access and express your authentic self. This is not self-help jargon. It is practical psychology. Jung understood that when a person operates from his authentic psychic center, he generates a resonance that is impossible to falsify or replicate. In a saturated market of generic content and copied strategies, Jungian authenticity becomes the most valuable asset. Jung's concept about individuation is perfectly applicable to modern entrepreneurship. Just as Jung described individuation as the process of becoming who you really are, success in the digital economy requires that you discover and express your unique perspective. Algorithms can detect authenticity. Audiences may feel when someone is being genuine versus when they are following a formula. Jung knew that the human psyche has an innate ability to recognize the truth, and in a world full of noise, that truth becomes a natural magnet for attention and trust. The most powerful thing to apply Jung to the modern world is that its methods to access the authentic self, work with dreams, attention to synchronicities, dialogue with the unconscious, shadow integration, are exactly the tools you need to find your unique niche in the market. Jung doesn't tell you what business to create. He teaches you how to access the inner wisdom that already knows what authentic expression the world needs you. In an era where traditional hustle is losing effectiveness, alignment with itself becomes the new form of productive effort, an effort that flows naturally because it is aligned with your essential nature. Individuals is the most revolutionary concept of Carl Jung, and also the most misunderstanding. It is not about becoming a better version of who you are already. It's about becoming who you were always destined to be before the world told you who you should be. Jung defined individuation as the process of integrating the conscious and the unconscious to form a complete and unified personality. But here is the part that changes everything. This process is not just personal development, it is the foundation of any lasting and significant success that you can create in your life. The key is to understand that your ego, that part of you that makes conscious decisions and identifies with certain roles and characteristics, is just a small fraction of your total potential. Jung knew that under the surface of your consciousness lies a vast ocean of wisdom, creativity, and power that remains inaccessible while living identified only with your ego. Individuals is the process of establishing a conscious relationship with that unconscious potential, allowing yourself, your deepest psychic center, becoming the director of your life instead of your limited ego. This is where the shadow becomes crucial. Your shadow contains not only the negative aspects that you have repressed, but also your unlinked genius, your without developing talents, your power without expressing. Jung observed that most people live mediocre lives not because they lack potential, but because they have buried their most powerful potential in their shadow for fear of judgment or rejection. Shadow integration is not accepting your defects. It is to claim the parts of IT that could have made you extraordinary, but that you sacrificed to be normal. The individuation process makes you a force of nature because you are no longer fighting against yourself. When you integrate your shadow and align with yourself, you access an internal coherence that translates into external power. You no longer waste energy maintaining a facade or repressing aspects of your personality. All your psychic energy is available to create, innovate, and manifest. Jung understood that an individual person does not need to compete in the traditional sense because he is operating from an authentic singularity. You are not trying to be better than others. You are being completely yourself, and that completeness is naturally magnetic and prosperous. Jung was right. We live in an era where authenticity has become the most valuable currency, and your ability to access and express your true self determines not only your psychological well-being, but also your material prosperity. Individuals is not a spiritual luxury. It is a practical strategy to navigate a world that finally rewards authentic singularity above conformity. Your shadow is not your enemy. It is your most powerful creative partner, hoping to be integrated to release the potential you have kept hidden for too long. What part of this Jungiana exploration resonated more deeply with you? Have you begun to recognize aspects of your shadow that could become sources of creativity and income? Or maybe you have identified ways in which your person has been limiting your true potential? Share your experience in comment S. Your individuation process matters and can inspire others who are in the same path of self-discovery. If this content has touched something deep in you, subscribe in the name of the channel because this is a space for deep thinkers, for those who are tired of pretending and ready to embrace their psychic truth. Like this video if you feel that Jung speaks directly to your soul and activates notifications so as not to miss any exploration of these transformative concepts that can change not only how you see success, but how you live it. Remember, You are not broken, you are becoming. Your individuation process is your greatest investment, and your authenticity is your most powerful competitive advantage. Until next time, and never forget that your inner light is not only necessary, it is profitable.